everybody, and welcome to Positive Fandom. I'm your host, Artem. And of course, I'm joined today by Darth Plato. Darth Plato, how are you?
Good afternoon, everybody. RM. I'm doing good. It's a nice warm day out here in California. Hope everyone in the chat is doing good. Thank you all for coming. And how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. It is a beautiful weather here in New York, too. We had a little bit of rain, but it was nothing to really talk about. And of course, today we're going to be talking about Greyhound, this film that Tom Hanks stars in. And certainly when Apple first started to make films, this is on Apple, Tom Jr. Jackson. So you're going to go to Apple TV, which is that where you're watching it, Darth Leto?
I think it's the only place you can watch it.
Okay, so it's on Apple TV. It's called Greyhound, and it is a historical movie. As you know, that's what we are pretty much doing a lot of here on the channel. And it is wonderful to be able to see these films being made. As I said, it stars Tom Hanks. It came out in 2020, and the movie is essentially about the escorting of supplies, maybe not even just supplies, but the escorting groups that would go across the Atlantic, and how let's say they had to endure going across the Atlantic in very dangerous waters at the time because it was during World War II. And of course, any ship out there, um, would most likely. Oh, thanks, Tom. I didn't realize it said Netflix, so I'll change it so that people see it's not Netflix. I'll put Apple TV. Um, but of course, it was a very dangerous time, and having those ships out there in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, it was essential. They needed to deliver these goods to overseas, right, Darth Leto?
Yeah, the Battle of the Atlantic was a very serious time, even before, yeah, especially before the U.S. entry into the war. The Germans were winning on this front. This is an active front, just like anywhere else in the world. The Battle of the Atlantic was the front where the Germans were clearly winning from from the get go. So on average, they were losing something like 5.3 million tons a year, something like that, in tonnage, and the British were only able to manufacture 800,000 replacement. So it's a losing battle. Absolutely, it is. And so the U.S. entry into the war did improve things, but the tide didn't really turn until after the event that we see in the movie. So the event of the movie, I haven't seen the movie yet, so I all I know about the movie is that it portrays Tom Hanks as the captain of a destroyer. That takes place in the Battle of the Atlantic. I'm not even sure what year it is.
Yeah, and you make a good point. And of course, we're starting the movie at 1 minute and 24 seconds. But during that first minute and 24 seconds, you get to hear actual footage of Winston Churchill, as well as FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, talk about Britain's role and the United States' role um, uh, during the war. And of course, this was at a time, of course, as you know, United States entered the war later than other countries did, but certainly many sacrifices were made by everyone. And certainly this movie especially um, was very eye opening in the sense that I have not ever seen it dramatized in this way. I've seen some little snippets here and there in other films, but nothing that just focused on this. And I'm sure there was other films about Greyhound that have come out. And I just want to say hello to Tom Jr. Jackson, who is here, who says hello. Hey, Tom Jr. Jackson, our moderator, collaborator, and good friend. Tom, I hope you're well today. We also have Heath from Heath's Geekverse here. Hi, Heath. How are you? Hope you are well. Who says, I think this was a great movie. So much of it is about the system of communications on board the World War II warship. When you see how they operate, you can clearly see the influence on the way the original Star Trek Enterprise, which in turn has influenced the way Starfleet starships operate ever since. Absolutely, Heath. Certainly, that tradition of communication is preserved, and we do see it presenting in entertainment as well. And Heath, it is great to see you guys. Make sure you check out Heath's Geekverse on Heath's YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'll take that one step further, and that is that in the Star Trek, the concept of the cloaking device is also taken from World War II warfare. The idea of a vessel being underwater, it's invisible, and it has to surface in order to shoot. Now, in the classic Trek, a ship under cloak was invisible, but it couldn't fire unless it appeared. That mimics the threat of the submarines in the Second World War.
Exactly. And thank you for mentioning that, Darth Plato. I certainly am very impressed with this Apple TV, guys. And certainly here is Tom Jr. Jackson's giving us Heath's Geekverse YouTube channel page. So make sure you guys subscribe to that coming up. And certainly,
And yeah, hello Heath, and thank you Tom Jr. Jackson for moderating.
absolutely. And Linwood Kent is here. Hello, Linwood Kent says, glad these events weren't forgotten. Thanks. Well, thank you, Linwood Kent, always with the kind words. Great to have you here watching along on these movies that are so incredibly important in history, which I think may be the major thing that people will remember these events for. We're not seeing as many people going in and grabbing books and reading about these events. So a lot of times these films might be the only thing we see going forward, where we get to see a dramatization of the events, of course. And of course, the in a lot of these films, Darth Plato, we get to hear the voices of some incredibly important figures like FDR, like Winston Churchill. You and I both talked about how much we love seeing Winston Churchill portrayed in a lot of these films. And certainly, one thing that I think is very interesting is how haunting their speeches and comments are. What, 70, 80 years later? What do you think, Darth Plato? Even just small bits of their speeches, which some of them were quite long, but when we see in films and they use them in this particular context, even now they still have a lot of gravity to them. What do you think?
Right, it's even more so when you understand how desperate the fighting was in the early days. It was really frustrating to be on the Allied side in the Atlantic at this time. They were losing like 90% of the time. It's for Churchill. Churchill himself admitted that what concerned him the most was the Atlantic front. Now, we haven't started the movie yet, but I'll just mention this. The reason why Britain was so vulnerable on this is because way back in the 1850s, they decided to divest themselves of their own agricultural sector to make room for industry. So Britain overtook the rest of the world in manufacturing steel. By 1860, they were producing 60% of all the steel in the entire world. And they got that because, as I said, they divested themselves of their agriculture. They were shipping in all their food. Because they were the dominant naval power in the world and the largest merchant marine in the world, they could afford to do that. They could ship in all their food. But the obvious threat was, well, what if another naval power came up and tried to choke off their supplies? Now, at the time, nobody could threaten Britain, but that was another century. Once you start getting into the 20th century and you start getting into submarine warfare, now that changed everything. In World War One and World War Two, the German strategy against Britain was to attack these merchant shipping to starve Britain into starvation because Britain did not have enough food to feed itself in peacetime, let alone wartime. That is why this battle of the Atlantic is taking place. It's not just to harass the Allies and to reduce their supplies, which is a good thing in general. Britain has an acute weakness on this front. That's why it's happening.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And of course, in this movie, there's no shortage of the Allies and, of course, submarines, which are a huge part of this film. Which it's just remarkable, honestly, Darth Plato, because of the amount of loss that you witness in this film, which is what definitely shook me. And I think that they did a good job of showing that. And while, like I said, you can read and see, anybody can pick up a book and say, well, this is how many, lives were lost, or this is how many ships were lost. But seeing it in the dramatization is very, very different. And I think another film that does a great job of that is Dunkirk. When you want to try to get the notion of looking at going ahead and seeing how many ships may have been launched and who sacrificed what. And it does tend to have a different feeling when you see it in the film.
Yeah, Dunkirk was a little bit different situation because the water was so shallow, so they couldn't really get boats that close. So they couldn't really bring heavy ships in. So only light ships. So the reason why you saw civilian ships coming in because they were light enough to get in. The military ships couldn't get in because the water was so shallow. That's been a problem since the 1500s. So
And I was
the big Spanish galleons couldn't get in. It was a problem even in those days.
watching a movie this weekend called Mrs. Miniver, and in the movie there's a small segment where towards the end of the film, where the character's husband goes off and is involved in Dunkirk, and they do a pretty good job at that time. Of course, Mrs. Miniver, I believe, was either made in the 40s or 50s, of showing that entire in action, if you will, uh, for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then her husband does return. He takes one of, at that time they asked for any boat, and so her husband, they had a boat on their canal, and he took the boat from the canal, and he went to be part of that. Certainly was a very interesting thing to see there dramatized in Mrs. Miniver. But now in Dunkirk, of course, we have more of an accurate view of how it happened. So it is very interesting to see different depictions in many of these films through the years of different things. But I haven't actually seen this depicted this way. I'm sure it's in some films. Like I said, I'm sure it is there, but I can't think of one now. Um, I also want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson here. Tom Jr. Jackson has his YouTube channel here, guys. Tom Jr. Jackson has fantastic reviews on his channel and live streams. Tom does his own live streams as well. And he also does Funko Pop art. So please do check out Tom Jr. Jackson's YouTube channel there. And thank you, Tom, for everything as always. And so I remember when this film came out in 2020, and I can't remember whether it aired in 2021 or 2020, but I did see this film and I reviewed it with two other reviewers on YouTube. And I had said, I hope we get to see more films that focus on this topic. And I wondered if we were going to see more coming out because of the pandemic, which had just kind of popped into the radar, let's say for, at least in my case, late 2019, and for the rest of the world, early 2020. Around the time this film was kind of coming out, either in production or post production. So certainly it was something to think about. We have seen a few more films. I think Apple's foray into filmmaking with this one was maybe one of the most spectacular things they could have done. Oh, thank you, Tom. Tom says, I believe Tom Hanks wrote the script for the film. Well, thank you so much, Tom. And I wonder, I'm guessing it may have been based on a book.
Oh yeah. It's based on C.S. Forester's book. He actually wrote. It's written by the same guy who wrote. The book's called The Good Shepherd. It's written by the same guy who wrote Horatio Hornblower.
He also wrote the Horatio Hornblower novels, right? Or no?
Yes, he did.
Okay. So certainly C.S. Forester, a very well-known author. And as you guys know, Horatio Hornblower is one of my favorite stories. And so good for Tom Hanks, who certainly has, and it was probably, if not you, Darth Flato, Tom Jr. Jackson, who was talking about Tom Hanks's, I guess it's a documentary where he talks about how, what it was like to be in the movies over a certain number of years. And Tom Hanks certainly has done a
Yeah, I
remarkable.
think Tom Hanks, I believe, has a special passion for World War II. So I heard a story about World War II once. It's like when they built the World War II memorial, Tom Hanks went there, and some people walked up to him to get his autograph, and he said, "Hold on a moment," and then he went over to talk to see some veterans, and he asked them for their autograph.
Right. And this is very interesting in the sense of this resurgence, or this I would say interest in this time period, as you and I were talking, Darth Plato, on the fact that we all acknowledge the fact that these groups of veterans are not going to be here forever. And of course, hopefully these films are doing justice for them being able to have, some sort of recollection, and honestly getting the word directly from them. Here in New York, we had a group of gentlemen who were on the Intrepid here in New York. And those guys, I think one guy who was on the boat, he was drafted, and I think he got onto the boat during the war when he was 17. He's 97 now. So, it was a long time ago, and he talks about it. And certainly, can you imagine being 17 and going to war? Well, that's what was going on at the time. 17 and 18-year-olds, very, very young men. And these are the same ages of the men we're going to see on these boats going across the Atlantic. Taking several trips. It wasn't sort of like just one foray. This wasn't sort of like just a short trip where we're just going once. This was a path that was encountered a lot. As I said, it's a very different thing for, we are talking about this event and it occurring during a certain period of the war. It's very different to read about it and to see this dramatization, which I think is wonderful. So Tom also is reminding us that there is an Audible book. Thank you, Tom, because I can't read these books anymore, right? Thank you so much, Tom. So without any further ado, as I said, the film starts off where you hear I think it's Churchill talking about the Americans' entrance into the war and the role they're playing, and certainly FDR supporting that role. And as I said, their voices are always mesmerizing, certainly reminding us of the tone, because I think it's important for them to set that tone that this is you're entering a movie where we are at a world war, and it has a very different effect, a very different meaning than at any other time. And so I think that that's so important that they do that. So Darth Plato, let's go ahead and get this started. Let's go ahead and start Greyhound starring Tom Hanks. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1, press play now. And it says North Atlantic, February 1942.
This is very early in U.S. participation in the war, so the Germans are definitely winning at this point.
And it says convoys of ships carrying troops and supplies, Great Britain, were crucial to the Allied war effort. The convoys were most vulnerable to U-boats. I can't read it fast enough, but you heard FDR say it there, everybody. Damn the torpedoes. Certainly something that I don't even know if people still use that in their vernacular, but it was used for quite some time. Air escort to Greyhound. We're at limit of our range, so must leave you now. So the planes could only fly out a certain portion into the ocean for protection, right, Darth Leto? I can't hear you. Do you? Is your microphone?
Yeah, when the war originally started, the Germans were trying to choke off the coastline around Britain, but the air power proved very difficult. So the Germans pushed further deeper into the middle of the Atlantic. So that the sweet spot for the German war effort was in the middle of the Atlantic, away from the coastline, so that air power couldn't help them. Now the Allies did find a way around that, but we'll talk about that later.
And of course, this is a convoy here that we're going to see, a convoy that has left the United States and is going to be heading towards Europe. I'm assuming Great Britain. And Tom Hanks is one of the many ships. It's a lot of ships, right, Darth Plato?
Oh yeah, convoys could be several hundred ships.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. Yeah, it's good that they show this, because, like I said, to get a perspective of this, when people talk about a convoy, I think it is very interesting. Certainly, knowing that it could be several hundred ships. The real question is how many will make it from one side to the other.
Well, it said troop transports right there. Troop ships generally traveled in a separate convoy away from the supply convoy. They were usually done separately, so I'm not really sure what's going on. Maybe it's just the time of the war that they were in. It also depends on any number of factors. Now, the British were using capital ships in the convoy duty. They were using World War I era battleships. That was to offset the German surface raiders. Because the German surface raiders, like the pocket battleship and the battlecruisers, were very good ships. They were very well crewed, and they were making mincemeat of the convoys. So the British were employing those World War I era battleships that led to the Bismarck incident The Bismarck has already been sunk by this point, but that must have been a tense time. So it'll be interesting to see the composition. I don't know how much they're going to do in explaining the composition of the convoy, but the convoy definitely would have had destroyers, a lot of destroyers. The destroyer was designed and was made for the express purpose of countering the submarine. It's a light warship. Generally speaking, light warships deal with engagements that are close range. Cruisers deal with medium range, and anything larger than that, like a battleship or a battle cruiser, would be long range. So this is all short range stuff, unless you're talking about surface raiders. So it'll be interesting to see if this is just submarines or if it's going to include German surface raiders.
Where are you? What street?
I don't think I would wait. I think I would probably marry him.
Yeah, Treasure Island used to be a naval base. Yeah, I've been there before.
Aw. All right.
Oh boy.
So these boats are headed to Liverpool, and they are in what's called the Mid-Atlantic Gap. And it says the escort consists of the Fletcher class destroyer, the USS Keeling, commanded by Commander Ernest Krause, played by, of course, Tom Hanks. And also the British tribal class destroyer, the HMS James F-80, a Polish Gromkloss destroyer, and the Canadian Flower class corvette, the HMCS Dodge K-136. So the Krause is the overall commander of the escort ships. And it is very interesting to see what's going to happen. There you can kind of see Seas are a little rough out there.
In the Atlantic, yes, I bet. Another thing that they did, if they travel too far south, they'll be in range of German bombers. Yeah, they're all pretty spread out there.
Yeah.
So you need a good amount of destroyers. There was a destroyer shortage at the start of the war. The British had they did what's called a Lend Lease, where the Americans gave the British immediately 50 destroyers in exchange for leasing a lot of British territory. So it's like not pretty good speed. So I guess Greyhound is the call sign. It's not actually the name of the ship.
Yeah. It says it's the USS Keeling.
Okay.
So when they say Greyhound, they don't have to keep saying USS Keeling. Each time.
Interesting. Yeah. Notice that the windows all have wipers.
Yes.
Generally speaking, during the daytime, a destroyer has an advantage over a submarine, but at night, the submarine has all the advantage.
Hmm.
All right, so when you're on a ship, you have a duty, but when they sound general quarters, everybody has a battle station position. So you stop what you're doing, you get whatever. So if you're working in the mess hall, you saw right there, the guy was working the mess. Now he's out working with the guns. But that's so when you go on a ship, you have a duty, and then you have a general quarters duty.
Hmm. It's a beat to quarters.
I mean, this is serious Red October vibes here.
Yes. This is so terrifying because not only are they dealing with it trying to run away from the enemy, but the sea feels like it's also something they have to deal with. It's oddly enough.
Well, the sea is always an adversary. Yes, that's true. But you got an enemy, you can't even see them.
Yeah, that's yes. It's like the sea is their camouflage.
Yeah, that's exactly the aesthetic that they were trying to achieve in Trek when they introduced the cloaking device.
Hmm.
And you know they're out there, but you can't see them.
Oh wow, that's a great shot of the submarine. That looks unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, this is supposed to be Krause's first wartime command.
They said that his first voyage.
Yeah. And so certainly this is very different and I think very interesting. Going out into something, this is just so terrifying. But there's so much at stake here.
Oh yeah, their whole convoy, and they're losing. Yeah, that's hard work doing all that math, and you had to do it quick. I never would be able to do that. I can do math, but not quickly.
And you have to communicate at the same time.
You have to be game show quick. They're using a hydrophone.
A what?
I think they're using a hydrophone. It's what allows them to hear underwater.
Now, Apple TV says that the film had the biggest debut weekend of any program on the platform's history, saying that the Deadline Hollywood said the figures were commensurate with a summer theatrical box office big hit in July of 2020. In November, of the same year, Variety reported the film as the 24th most watched straight to stream title of 2020 up to that point.
Yeah, he said hydrophone. Yeah, they are using the hydrophone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a very unique device. You could hear the coming of a ship from beyond the horizon.
It's incredible.
Yeah, the Bismarck and the Hood used it on. They both had it, so they were aware of each other before they ever came into visual range.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds really close.
closing in.
Yeah, what concerns me is they're getting further and away from the convoy. It's very neat.
Yeah, that is a lot of oil.
And that's exactly what a destroyer was designed to do. Exactly that right there.
Hello, Brogu. Hope you are well. We are currently watching Greyhound. About, wow, already this far into the film, 25 minutes into it. Hope you get a chance to watch it. Good to see you.
Yeah, standard what the Germans did was they would scour the Atlantic, and on U-boat would find convoy. They'd radio it to a wolf pack, and then the other submarines would come in. So you had maybe 15, 20, 25, 30 submarines were all attacking different directions.
Wow.
So this is probably just the beginning.
Well, a ship has just been sunk, Darth Plato.
Looked like it's starting. Yeah, someone got picked.
Oh no. Ugh. Well, this sounds like what you were talking about, Darth Plato. They're coming from different directions all at the same time.
Yeah, they're more likely to do it at night though.
What do you think of the effects so far, Darth Plato?
It's mesmerizing. Can't wait to watch it in sound. Yep. Yep. That's what they're doing. Well, that's kind of scary. When they come up like that, that means they're going to attack. Or to get more oxygen. Pretty scary looking thing.
Could they outrun the submarines? Realistically,
Were they what?
were they able to outrun the submarines realistically, or was it?
I don't think so. Destroyers are pretty quick. They have to dive. That's really the only thing they can do is dive and just get off in one direction. If they dive deep enough, they're fine. Now they have equipment trouble.
It was like the most important piece of machinery on the boat.
Yeah, I'm a little curious why the subs even surface that close to a destroyer. I don't see why that is. Why would you do that? It's like standing on a hill, jumping up, doing jumping jacks, waving a torch. Hmm. So basically, they're the 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock watch. Yeah, now it's gonna start.
Oh boy. Oh my goodness gracious.
Look how close they are. It's a big ship.
Oh dear. Oh no.
Yeah, that's the problem with being at war at night.
And hello, Jacob Ironside says hello, Artem and Darth Plato. Well, hello to you, Jacob Ironside. We are watching Greyhound. We are about 39 minutes into this and hope you are watching it and enjoying along with us.
Yeah, welcome, Jacob. Is that the tanker? That's not a good sign.
I mean, it's so hard to see, even. I mean,
That's why the subs are doing it at night. Exactly why. They can just pop up out of the water and you'll never know you're there. All you see is nighttime. That's why a little while ago when the captain said darken the lights, that's why they were. That's part of the reason to them not be an obvious target for the subs.
oh.
Questionable. Oh, it's a countermeasure. That's really neat. They wasted. What a neat device. They mimic a positive signal and caused the destroyer to use its depth charges. They
Yeah.
just wasted it. That's a really neat.
Well, they suspected, didn't they say they suspected it was a decoy? I didn't know they could do that.
Yeesh. This must have been so frustrating. Well, they have to get them out of the water. That's freezing cold water.
Oh.
Yikes. As soon as possible means you're on your own.
Oh.
Genius. There goes another one. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a movie based on from the perspective of a destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
We all it's usually like a submarine. They showed more movie from a submarine than anything. Submarine. We've seen it from a carrier. We've seen it from a battleship. I don't think we've ever seen it from a destroyer. What the hell? I think they put that in there for the movie.
Oh.
Yeah, I seriously doubt that the Germans would break silence like that. If you transmit, they can triangulate where you are, and you don't want them to do that if you're on a sub. So I think they put that in there for the movie. I seriously doubt that that really happened. Yep, there goes another one. Jesus.
It's awful. Oh gosh.
You see how frustrating it must have been for them.
Hmm.
Up until this, once you start getting into late 42, the tide started to turn. But it was a clear-cut German victory all the way up to then. It must have been crazy frustrating watching that.
So, guys, we're about halfway through the film, and it's been spectacular so far.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I'm definitely gonna watch this again. With
Hmm.
yeah. But so far, we're only seeing destroyers. We're not seeing any surface ships. So they're just gonna show the submarine destroyer aspect of it. They're not gonna show the surface warfare. It's too bad. That'd be neat to see.
Well, there is a sequel that's going to be coming out regarding this film, Darth Plato, and I'm not surprised by that at all.
A what?
A sequel.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
I like to. See, I'd like to see a. I'd like to see a Bismarck movie. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really awful affair. That was. Jeez. Yeah, that countermeasure really hurt them. Weird exchange.
They don't have a time. They don't. He doesn't have time to eat. They don't even have time to breathe.
Yeah, that's exactly the. That's exactly the point. I'm more than a little curious why there's any ships left. Once a wolf pack catches you out in the open like that, there's not a whole lot you can really do.
Well, a periscope. You know what that means.
I mean, they're being watched. I mean, they're being sized up.
He totally got freaked out when he saw the torpedo. I mean, I didn't know you could see it like that.
I'm a little curious why the German even bothered to surface. It wouldn't have surfaced right next to a destroyer like that.
And hello, Dadman Walking 55 says, good evening. Well, good evening to you, Dadman Walking 55. Such a pleasure to see you. We are in the middle of a watch party of Greyhound. I don't know if you've seen the film, but why not join us? It is such an amazing film. Oh, dear. Oh, my goodness. Oh, God, it's like they could almost touch it. He knew that they couldn't hit him at that angle.
Whoa, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
They're right next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
Oh, my God.
That's as close quarters as you're going to get. Well, that sub's not going to survive. He has 2 destroyers on him.
Oh.
What an amazing sight.
I know, right? They did get that submarine, right, Darth Plato?
Yeah, the submarine's still there. If something like that happened for real, that might be what. Whoa. Yeah, there it goes. That was one of the most awesome naval battle scenes I've ever seen.
Oh, so good, Darth Plato.
Yeah, there was an incident very similar to this in the Pacific where they got really close to each other, where the destroyer couldn't fire because the mounts were too high, and they were coming out onto the decks to shoot each other with their handheld pistols. And so they some of the guys on the decks were had sacks of potatoes. They were throwing potatoes at the Japanese to keep them off balance before more men could show up with guns. But
So certainly we're seeing an incredible level of intensity on the water in, seamanship.
oh,
I
the
can't
black
believe.
guy. Oh, the black guy got hit.
Yeah, he did.
Burial at sea.
And we got about 30 minutes left of this film, Darth Plato. This has just been from second to second filled with something.
Indeed. Ah. Ah.
Oh dear.
Yeesh. Sank in 3 minutes. That must have been a bad hit. That's the destroyer that was point blank. What they just said.
Right. Hey
Or
guys,
what?
we are watching Greyhound from 2022, due for a sequel coming out soon. And Jacob Ironside says, I haven't seen the movie. I'm going to go. Y'all have a good watch, Jacob. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you're well. And certainly do check out the film, one of the highest viewed films on Apple TV of all time, with a sequel coming out soon.
That was an awkward moment.
Oh, looks like things might be looking up.
Not until they started getting their modified carriers. That was the turning point in the War of the Atlantic with the modified carriers. What they did was they took merchant ships and they modified them to have flight decks, so they were able to maintain a cap 24/7 all across the Atlantic. Once they were able to do that, that's really what made the difference. They don't look like they have that here. I believe the first one was called the Audacity. Yeah, the HMS Audacity was the first one built. Now this again. Probably been on his feet for days.
They are so close to making it.
Is that all you wanted? Guten Morgen. Yeah, this is the part of the movie that I like, that I most disapprove of.
Wow.
That's a hard turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. Yep, here it is. Close range naval combat. This is what it looks like. There it goes. Yeah, and that's really cool.
Tom Jr. Jackson is saying they need to release this film on physical media, and I agree, Tom. It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
You saw right there. That's exactly why the Germans are focusing their effort in the Middle Atlantic away from the coastline, precisely for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
The sub is so vulnerable when it's on the surface, and air power can just take it right out. So it's a danger. A sub's a dangerous weapon, but it has very uh, serious weaknesses. Kindly. Yeah, the British are right.
Greyhound and Convoy most grateful for your splendid cooperation. I think that's what it said.
Notice that he's a commander. The smaller warships usually have a an officer that's the captain of the ship. He doesn't actually hold the rank of captain. So even though he's the skipper, he doesn't actually hold the rank of captain. This is the best Navy movie I've seen since Red October. Seriously.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
All that stuff that they were doing about come right, do come right, come left, the hard to port. I love that stuff. It's yeah, I can't get enough of that stuff.
Yeah, I think Tom Hanks really outdid himself with this film.
It has its flaws, but it's a phenomenal movie. He's still wearing his slippers. Technically, he's out of uniform.
Did he relieve himself of duty?
He's the skipper. He can do it. That's pretty cool.
Well, it's a beautiful film.
What a great scene. Yeah, they're showing their gratitude. Yeah, which is understandable. Look at when you're in a cargo ship, civilian ship sailing out in the Atlantic in those days, you were really at the mercy of the U-boats or the surface raiders. So yeah, I can understand those guys showing their gratitude. You're a sitting ducks as sitting duck can get. The modern day hornblower.
Well, I can see why the film had such a high rating from so many people. Watching this was certainly a very special experience.
This is locked on Apple Plus.
I mean, it's on there. It says during the Battle of the Atlantic, over 3,500 ships carrying millions of tons of cargo were sunk.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
72,200 souls were lost forever.
Yeah, 800 submarines, 800 German U-boats were sunk too.
Mhm.
I think the Germans manufactured 1,100 something U-boats, and they lost 800 of them. That's pretty. That's pretty serious attrition.
And this is nice. At the end of the film, they are showing you video of um, veterans from World War II,
I don't see that yet.
as well as Churchill. I'm sorry, FDR. At least I don't think I saw Churchill. It's too fast.
Oh yeah, you're a little ahead of me.
Well, I was following the counter on the
I
screen
know.
before.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not sure. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm only just now seeing the the caption up.
okay.
There's I see the footage now.
I think it's beautifully done.
Everything of it, yeah. I like this. Is a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
There it is, based on the Good Shepherd by C.S. Forrester. Oh, that's the Atlantic. That's the signing of the Atlantic Charter. Their footage there for
Oh, oh, that's what that was.
yeah,
Okay.
FDR. FDR and Churchill were meeting on the HMS Prince of Wales there for the signing of the Atlantic Charter.
I also have to give them credit for a fantastic the sound. It was nominated for Academy Award for best sound. It didn't win, but certainly it deserved it. And also the soundtrack I also thought was nice.
Well, I'll have to rewatch the movie to make this judge of that. I didn't listen to it in sound.
Okay. Well, let me see if I can share it this way. Um, I'll do this.
I'm
Oh,
definitely I'm definitely gonna watch it again with sound
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
It's a fantastic film. Let me see if I can center myself here, and I can present this so that we can look. Um, so on the Rotten Tomatoes, it says it was 77% and 75%. There's not very many reviews, professional reviews, yes, but the audience, 1,000 plus. That's not as many as I thought they would have on there by now after so many years.
Yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in professional reviews.
Well, it doesn't matter how many professional reviews because this is 239. It's about how many they seem to average coming out, but the audience reviews only 1,000 in this many years. Maybe because they don't have the subscription and they can't watch it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was asking.
Yeah,
Is this okay? So it's on Apple Plus. Will it always be on Apple Plus?
I don't know. But Tom, I was able to find it on Amazon. So,
It's on Amazon.
excuse me. I was able to find the physical media version
Or the physical media version.
if you
Okay.
wanted to buy the physical media version on Amazon. So,
I might actually do that. I don't
yeah, I
buy.
put
I
the
don't buy. I don't buy a lot of movies.
but this one you would buy.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a film that illustrates what exactly was going on and what it meant for them to do these crosses in such an effective way. I don't believe
Yeah.
that I've ever seen it done like this before. And I don't know, is this, let's say the Greyhound operation something that no one wants to talk about? Has it been something that people historically don't want to talk about, Darth Plato?
I don't think so. I think it's just when you think about if you're going to make a movie about the war, you're going to go to the usual suspects. You're going to go to D-Day. You're going to go to Pearl Harbor, Midway. You're going to go to the Battle of El Alamein, Torbuk, um, Stalingrad, the uh, the battle, the liberation of France. Those are usually where you're going to go. The usual suspects: Battle of the Bulge, Guadalcanal, the Battle of the Atlantic. The thing about the battle, there wasn't a singular engagement that really highlights the Battle of the Atlantic. It's really just a series of things. I got the closest thing you could get to a climactic battle in the Battle of the Atlantic would probably the Bismarck incident. But you're right. I've never seen a movie that really details on screen the Battle of the Atlantic, and I'm really glad they did.
I am too. I think this was such a fantastic film, and I think that Tom Hanks demonstrates his movie making abilities in it. Especially, he had to carry a lot of it in the film. I especially think that this special effects team did an incredible job of recreating these battle scenes that are realistic. They're not perfectly in view at any time, but you can understand what's going on. And this feels like this is exactly what the men experienced who saw this. And I'm kind of curious as to what the veterans think of who lived this and saw this happening in front of them. What their opinion is of it. But certainly, it's definitely wonderful that he made it, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Any final words on the film, Darth Plato, before we close out the broadcast?
There was something that happened during the war, during the Battle of the Atlantic, that I thought was kind of messed up. They didn't really show it here. Actually, they didn't show it at all. This was known to happen. It wasn't common, but it was known to happen. Neutral ships would sometimes travel in these convoys because they're coming from the United States to Europe, and they would sell the information of the convoy to German U-boats.
Oh my goodness.
That was known to happen.
Well, that is disturbing, and I'm going to say that for a film to be able to make people understand what happened during these particular crossings, of which I guess if there were several a day and over the course of 3 or 4 years, this incredibly dangerous operations,
Yeah.
it really is impressive. And just the amount of pressure, um,
Yes.
just looking at one crossing, the notion of him even having to think about
Yeah.
another crossing,
Well,
right?
yeah, that's exactly right. Because after this is over, they're gonna rest for a while, sure, but then they're gonna go back across, which probably is going to be as tense because the whole point is to ship to England, not to the United States, and then go through it all again. So I don't know how many times a destroyer captain transited the Atlantic towards Europe. I don't know the answer to that. That'd be interesting to know the answer to that.
It would be interesting to know, and certainly we are grateful for what they've done. We can see the effects, and certainly know the sacrifice of these men and what they've done for us. And it's very impressive. This is, like you said, Darth Plato, um, one of the most incredible reproductions of these events, and certainly I just think it's remarkable what they were able to do with the special effects. And I think this is where you could use special effects, and I would say, fine, I want to see, or at least get a notion of what that must have looked like. And certainly it was very hard for them to navigate all this, very difficult. They had to have eyes on um, all the time, even at
Yeah,
night. They're looking outside, Darth Plato, at
yeah,
nighttime. um, and it just seems so hard. This seems and felt like it was such a hard job because it was hard. Um, so Darth Vader, I give this movie the same as you, 9 to 10. I think the performances were amazing. I think Tom Hanks was amazing in this.
hmm
I think he's not that he wasn't always a good actor, but I think that he hit on struck a nerve with this one. Um, Maybe he's found his another calling of his by playing. He played a captain before, Captain Phillips, and that was a popular film. But maybe he's kind of found his calling in these military action films. Let's hope the momentum continues and they are able to push out that sequel and certainly get it going.
I'd be
So
interested to see what that is. It's probably going to involve something involving the Audacity, or a like ship when they start get the modified carriers for the convoy duties. Like I said, that was the turning point of the Battle of the Atlantic when they were able to maintain a 24/7 cap. Um, the one thing about the movie that irked me was the scene about the Germans taunting them over the TBS.
apparently that's an add-on and it's not
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
in the film. So that was something I don't know why they added in, but um, it is what it is. I guess that's what they wanted to put in. But
yeah.
um,
That's completely theatrical. I'm very skeptical that ever happened.
yeah,
I am aware that the Germans did have the know-how to break into the TBS and wreak havoc, but they didn't do stuff like that. They were doing stuff like eavesdropping and giving information. I recall reading there was an incident where they broke into TBS and they said for all the destroyers to move to one side, and whoever was working didn't think to verify the message, and the destroyers moved out of position, and that opened up an opportunity for the U-boats to attack. So that's the sort of, if they're going to break into the TBS, that's what they're going to use it for. They're not going to sit there and go, yeah, we're going to kill you all. They're not going to do that. That was a bad scene. That's
well,
my one complaint.
I think that sometimes when we get these additions or kind of things that are added in for theatrical license, there's a reason, and they perhaps they feel for the general audience it's needed. I don't believe it is, but there is someone behind the scenes who felt it was necessary, and I don't think it diminishes the film in any way.
Eh,
In fact, it's something that could be removed later on.
yeah,
So
yeah. We don't need the villain middle monologue. No.
we don't need the villain monologue, and it can be easily taken out. It's not anything that's going to change the outcome of the film or its strength. So I this really is magical movie making that is incredibly enhanced by CGI as we would expect it to be. Um, Really just a wonderful film. And Darth Vader, thank you for joining me for this film. Darth Vader, where can people find you?
You can find me here on the It Show, the Positive Fandom. Where can people find you?
Guys, you can find me here on Positive Fandom, my YouTube channel. So please like and subscribe. You can also find me on the Burn Network um, as well as Lorena Creole's channel and Uncivilized Scoundrels on the 1/6 Scale Man Network or El Profesoro's channel. So please do check that out. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a live watch party with Lorena right here on Positive Fandom of the finale of the Outlander series, at least the first half of the season 7 mid-season finale. So guys, please do join me then. I probably will be doing, although I'm not sure, PGS tracks tomorrow and Amusings tomorrow night. But it's such a pleasure you all were here. Hey, Delta Ray Studios. Hope you're well. We're just wrapping up this watch party for Greyhound. So if you guys do have access to uh, Apple TV, do check it out. Want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson. Tom Jr. Jackson, certainly for being here, my moderator, collaborator, and good friend. Thank you for everything, Tom Jr. Jackson. I so appreciate everything you do. Guys, thank you everybody for being here. It's been such a pleasure to watch this film. Darth Plato, thank you for watching the film with me again. Certainly an incredible film, guys. And remember, as we wrap up the channel, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody. Bye.